Hey, my name's Andrew Hoog. I'm the co-founder at NowSecure, and I co-founded the company about 12 years ago. We really started out in mobile forensics. I wrote a couple of books on the topic. I have a few patents, and we spent a number of years doing cases, basically. And in the course of doing those cases, we ended up finding lots of sensitive data at rest on these devices. And so we saw a real opportunity there and shifted into testing mobile apps for security issues. It's actually a really tedious thing to do. And after a while, it was kind of boring and monotonous. So we're also software developers. And we went out there and we started writing software that would help us pen test mobile apps faster. And that was really great because we took the time frame from a couple of weeks down to call it a couple of hours. But the problem was app stores had now become popular. And no matter how hard we tried to keep up, we simply couldn't keep up with the number of apps that were being released and then updated in the Apple and Google Play and Apple Store. So we ended up building software to automate testing those apps. So we would go to the public stores, we would pull them down, and we would do both static binary and dynamic testing. And it was really great because the software worked and we were able to scale it. And then we actually recognized that we're solving the problem too late, because if we could move further left into the development process, we could actually test those builds before they were ever pushed out to the public stores, and then help customers secure the apps, before it became an issue for them. And so that's the biggest part of our business. And we've now really partnered closely with GitHub, because what we found is that we can work directly in that Git developer workflow. So they can check in their code, they can test it, they can get quick results, and it can all happen inside that native GitHub experience, in the developer experience, and basically help them prioritize and solve problems as quick as possible. One of the great things about testing binaries is that we don't really care what language your app was written in. As long as it can run on the device rigs that we have, we can test it. So we support Kotlin and Swift, and we supported them as soon as they came out. We also support things like Flutter and Cordova and different frameworks that have become more and more popular. So being able to look at the binary, look at all of the code in your app. So if you are doing static source code analysis, you're just going to be looking at the code that you wrote. And the really great thing about static binary and dynamic analysis is we're going to look at all the code that's incorporated into your mobile app. And that's going to include third-party SDKs, whether they're open source or closed source. And when we exercise your app, we're testing all of that functionality. So it's a much better way and a faster way, a real world way to test mobile apps. Yeah, a big part we talk about is how we combine static and dynamic analysis to have low false positives. I think a lot of security companies go out there and kind of measure their value to the customers of how many things did I find? And we take a very different approach. We want to find the types of issues that would really impact your app in the real world. And so it's kind of coming from our forensic roots. We combine static and dynamic. We provide evidence to support our findings. And we're really taking the attacker point of view and only showing you the types of things that would truly put your application at risk. And we'll give all that to you with standard CVSS rankings, so you can assess which ones are the most important. But we're not exclusively looking for security issues. We'll look for things like app store blockers or privacy issues that could be problematic for your application. Even things like finding all the APIs that you currently use and helping you realize like what new things have been added to my application that perhaps I wasn't even aware of. So there's a whole bunch of telemetry we collect and findings that we have that go beyond just the value of, hey, I found some security flaw. Yeah, one of the big changes we made recently was starting to really start to incorporate into our findings a lot of information about the issue. What's the business impact? How did we produce it, or how could you reproduce it? What's sample bad code? What's some good code samples? We also map things to like regulatory frameworks. That's really helpful when organizations are talking or regulated by different industries. And all of that comes together to provide, especially when you look at the evidence that pinpoints where the problem is, comes together and makes it a lot easier for an organization to assess the risk, the relative priority it should have, and then to go in there and quickly fix it. So that's been a really big push for us over the past 1 to 2 years. The value of our GitHub integration is that our results are very, very quickly available in the native workflow that developers experience. So we're able to scan the results, do both static and dynamic analysis, produce that result quickly back to the developer, give it to them in GitHub UI, and at certain times we're even able to go in line with the pull requests. And so it's this very, very quick feedback loop that provides security and privacy feedback to the developers that allow them to write apps with a higher level of confidence. One of the big things we've been working on lately is software bill of materials. We've actually been working on it for a few years, but it's certainly become important to a lot of organizations now. And the cool thing about static binary analysis is we're able to look at the SDKs that you've included directly, and we're able to look at transient dependencies. So basically, other dependencies that SDKs have included. And so we're able to look at all of those dependencies and provide visibility to them, as well as our dynamic testing actually will test all of that code in your mobile app. Lately, we've been focused on a new integration with GitHub into their dependency graph. So this will be something that's released in the first or second quarter of 2022. And so we'll take all of our software build material and we'll natively be able to feed it into the dependency graph in your GitHub repo, which down the road means you'll get things like Dependabot alerts native in your repos, because we're going to be able to process those languages and update your dependency graph.